Hi everybody, I'm Garrett, and you're watching Garrett's O-Gauge Trains. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, you probably already know this, but my freight roster has never exactly been the star of the show. Now, right now, we're working with a grand total of 4 freight cars. 4. That's semi-modern, and that's the entire operation. Now, these things have been pulling way more weight than they were ever designed to do, metaphorically speaking. And honestly, they've been doing a respectable job holding things together. But if you follow me over on Instagram or Facebook, you already know I have the hardest time when it comes to modern freight rolling stock. I just don't know what it is. I've never gravitated towards it in the same way as passenger cars. There's just so much more going on. The variety, the detail, the colors, everything feels intentional. You've got wood-sided cars, ribbed aluminum, smooth, streamlined cars. Every single one feels like it has its own personality. You can line up a passenger consist and every car has something a little different to offer. Freight cars always felt a little bit more practical to me. But recently that attitude has completely changed. I've always had a fascination with heritage freight equipment and some of the really unique cars out there, but there's nothing quite like seeing something you've seen in real life running on your own layout. That's what really flipped the switch for me. Now, I'm not saying I'm completely shifting my whole collecting perspective. I'm definitely still a passenger guy at heart, but when it comes to finding something new, freight is officially a much bigger player in the decision-making now. Now, before settling on what I picked up, I spent a lot of time doing some research on semi-modern freight cars, roughly spanning from the mid-1950s into the early 2000s. And honestly, there is a lot to take in. Auto racks, gondolas, tank cars of all different capacities, large box cars. The variety is way deeper than I ever gave it credit for. And it's funny because it's not like I didn't know about these cars. I've seen them, I've worked around them, and in fact, a few times in training as a brakeman, I've handled similar equipment. But actually taking the time to look into their history and how they were used, it really changed my appreciation for the freight service as a whole. So when Nicholas Smith's had a sale going on for some of their sets, I figured it might finally be time to do something about this very underrepresented part of the layout. Now, with a little help from my wife as a Christmas/birthday gift, who, for the record, was very supportive of this decision, we may have taken that idea a little further than originally planned. So now, the roster looks a little bit different. Let's start getting into what showed up. Now first, I picked up 2 sets of the Lionel ADM 50-foot tank cars. Now these were an easy choice. They're clean, they're consistent, and they immediately start giving the train a more unified, modern look. It's one of those additions where as soon as you put them on the track, everything starts to feel a little more put together. Now, I do actually already have one of these cars back here. And this is what they look like. We'll open up these boxes now, but this is kind of what we're getting into. Now, I grew up watching these YouTube unboxing videos, and for some reason there is some sort of psychological overlap between model railroading and knives. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I couldn't care less about knives, to be quite honest with you, but for your sakes, I am going to be using to unbox these the genuine Dickies knife. As a bottle opener and everything. Here we go. Now, in case you didn't notice already, this one was already open. I did a little bit of a preliminary check over everything, make sure everything was okay. This one, however, was not. So we are opening this together. Now, I always keep my orange and blue, purple and yellow, blue and red boxes. I also keep my outside boxes for transportation. Let me know in the comments what you guys do, if you guys think I should continue to save these boxes or if I should just recycle them like every other box I do. But I don't know why I decided to just like keeping them. Something nostalgic about the printed shipping information here and the product information that I just love. So put in the comments what you guys do with your outside boxes. Here's set 1. And here's set 2. And I know I already had one unboxed, but I wanted to show you guys this. This is what came directly out of the box. Now, I'm gonna unpack the rest of these while you guys listen to a voiceover video of a review on these cars. Now here we have the Lionel ADM 50-foot tank cars. These I got 2 sets of, and they come in a 3-pack. So again, same thing with the numbers. The numbers are gonna be the same for 2 cars per tank car that I have, but again, super easy to fix if I want to do that in the future. For now, I'm going to leave it as is. Tank cars like these have been a staple of railroading for decades and used to transport everything from chemicals to food grade products like corn syrup. They're very versatile and common sight in freight trains. Now these Lionel models strike a nice balance between durability and detail. Looking at the sides, the tank bodies are smooth and clean with nicely applied ADM branding and safety striping that really stands out on your consist. Now on the ends here, you got the end platforms, the handbrakes, the brake rigging, and the railings that are sturdy and well executed, making them both good looking and durable. Underneath these cars, it features a solid construction with die-cast trucks and enough weight to give them a stable feel on the track. One thing Lionel did put on the bottom of this car is the Built by Lionel plate here, as well as the item number on top of that. Usually you see that on the side of cars, but I'm very, very glad they put it underneath because I really don't want to see that as I'm videoing my trains going by. So I appreciate that they did put all of that model information on the bottom of the car. Now in operation, similar to the gondolas, these cars do not have free swinging couplers, and that can make them a bit more sensitive on curves, especially when backing up. However, thanks to their weight, they stay pretty well planted on the rails and don't tend to derail, which helps maintain reliable operation. Now overall, these are great additions to any modern freight consist. They're durable and they look great next to each other. And again, I have 6 of these cars that I got today, as well as 1 car that I had previously. So they look awesome together. Up next, we've got 3 sets of the Lionel PPLX Rotary gondolas. 3. At some point, I clearly decided that what this layout really needed was the ability to move an excessive amount of coal at any given moment. But in all seriousness, these are going to look incredible in a long consist. Once they're all lined up, this is easily going to be one of the most visually satisfying parts of the train. Now, like before, I did do a preliminary look through one of the boxes. So we'll open the next 2. Step 1, done. On to step 2. Here we are, 1 more step. This is it, the Rotary gondola. We'll go over to a close-up so I can give a good solid review on this car. Now here we have the Lionel PPLX Rotary gondolas. With 3 4-packs, this is where you can really start to build a serious unit train. The prototype for these cars is designed specifically for coal service, particularly in operations that use rotary dumpers. Now these dumpers allow the entire car to be rotated to unload without being uncoupled. These models capture that concept with a really nice feature.
On one end of the car, you have a rotating coupler. That means if you were to simulate a rotary unloading operation, this car is actually capable of performing it just like the real thing, which is really cool and a prototypical touch. Looking at the sides, the bathtub design stands out immediately. You can see all the little riveting detailing around the framework here. The paint and the markings on the sides here are also very clean and consistent across the entire set. Now on the ends here, you'll notice the rotary coupler on the one side of the car, along with solid end structures that are built to handle operation. Again, this model is not meant to be super accurate. On the opposite side, you do have the handbrake, but it is just pretty much one mold, so the detailing is very simplistic. But again, this looks great on a very large consist. Underneath, the focus is more on durability than extreme detail, but everything is sturdy and well constructed. Now in operation, there is one thing to note: these cars do not have free swinging couplers, kind of like the tank cars. Because of that, they can be a bit more challenging on tighter curves, especially when reversing, but however, the weight of these cars pretty much helps keep them planted on the track without derailing. The other thing you can do if you are having problems with that derailing issue is this top part comes out, which I'll show you here, and you are able to put something in there to give it a little bit more weight to help with that derailing issue if you happen to have it. Overall, these are fantastic for building long, modern coal trains. The combination of the rotary coupler feature and the solid performance makes them a very fun and functional addition to the layout.
That took me like 20-25 minutes to take all the cars out, put the boxes back like normal, and then pack them away. Whew. I even got a little injury. Started bleeding from my that little part of your nail that meets the skin because of how many times I had to go into the box and open it up. Don't know if I'll be putting that in the video, but here we are. Next up are 3 Atlas Trainman ACF 50-foot 6-inch box cars. Now, these are just solid additions across the board. Nothing flashy, nothing over the top. They just do exactly what you want them to do. They fill out the consist, they add variety, and they make everything else around them feel a little bit more realistic. Let's open one of them. Here's the first look. Now let's go take a closer one.
Now we're taking a look at the Atlas Trainman ACF 50-foot 6-inch box cars. Now I have road numbers 152972 and 152966. So I have 2 of these numberings on our box cars that we got today, as well as just 1 of the numbers 152966. The reason I did that is because, well, those were the only 2 options they had at the store. Also, I don't really care too much about how many of the same numbers I have on the cars. I know it's not prototypical, but it is so easy to change in post. So that may be something I do later on, but for now, I am okay with having 2 of the same car. Now, the prototype for these cars comes from American Car and Foundry. They were designed to standardize and modernize boxcar construction in the mid-20th century, and with increased capacity and versatility, these cars became a staple across many railroads. These models are part of the Trainman line, and once again, while they are more affordable, they still bring a very respectable level of detail to the car. Now, looking at the sides, the paneling is clean and very well defined. The sliding doors here are nicely molded, and the lettering is sharp and easy to read. And having 2 different road numbers really adds to the realism when running them together. Again, I probably will change that sometime in the future, but for now, I am a-okay with running 2 of the same road numbers. On the ends, the ladders and the brake wheel are simple, but well proportioned, and they match the overall look of the car very nicely. Underneath here, the detail is more basic, but still solid. The trucks and couplers are reliable and built for constant operation. Performance-wise, these are excellent runners. They roll smoothly and handle curves and switches without any issues. In terms of accuracy, they do a great job representing the prototype in a way that balances detail and durability. Overall, these are fantastic everyday freight cars. They're reliable, good looking, and a great example of how the Trainman line still delivers a strong detail at more affordable price points.
Then we've got the Atlas Trainman 70-ton war emergency gondola. It is a really nice piece, and it adds a lot of different kind of character compared to everything else. Now, typically I will not be running this with a semi-modern freight consist. I mostly got this because they didn't have a car that I was looking for, and I have a lot of old Pennsylvania steam locomotives, and I wanted something a little bit bigger to pull behind those. Let's open it up. Here it is. Let's check it out a little closer.
Now next up is the Atlas Trainman 52-foot 6-inch 70-ton war emergency gondola, item number 2002804-5. The prototype for this car dates back to World War II, when material shortages, especially steel, forced railroads to get a little creative. Now these gondolas were designed using a combination of steel framing and alternative materials to conserve resources, making them a very distinctive and historically important design. This model comes from Atlas Trainman line, which is designed to be a little more affordable and durable, but that absolutely does not mean it is lacking in detail. These cars still bring a lot to the table and look great in a consist. Looking at the sides, you get that classic gondola ribbing along with the panel detail that represents the construction style of the era. Now the paint is clean, the lettering is very sharp, and it really captures that rugged wartime appearance. On the ends, the detail is a bit more simplified compared to Premier, but is still very well done. The ladders, the brake wheel, the end structures are all nicely proportioned and hold up very well visually. Now the one thing about this car is they did design them for the ends to fold down like this. Now that was done in a way so that they could travel with longer loads such as lumber or steel, and they were able to put them across several cars. So that is a very cool feature that they added in the Atlas Trainman model of the 70-foot war gondola. Now underneath, the detail is a little bit more straightforward, focusing on durability and reliability, but you still get that solid representation of the car's structure. The trucks are sturdy, and everything feels built to handle in regular operation. In terms of accuracy, it does a really great job capturing the overall look and feel of the prototype, even if some of the finer details are simplified. Overall, this is a great historical freight car. It's durable, it runs well, and it still offers a very satisfying level of detail, especially considering its place in the more affordable Trainman lineup.
Here we have an Erie Lackawanna 3-bay cylindrical hopper. Always nice to get another road name into the mix, especially one that stands out a bit more. Now I do already have one of these, and I wanted another one just to add a little bit more of the consistency in my rolling stock. So let's open it up and check it out. And here it is. Let's take a closer look at it.
Here we have the Atlas Premier 3-bay Centerflow hopper, item number 3001624-2, decorated for the Erie Lackawanna. The prototype for these cars date back to the late 1960s when Centerflow designs revolutionized the way bulk commodities were transported. Now these cars use gravity-assisted unloading, making them highly efficient for materials like grain and plastic pellets. Being part of the Premier line, this model delivers full-scale proportions and high level of detail throughout. Starting with the sides, the ribbing is very well defined and the panel separation is crisp and clean. The Erie Lackawanna lettering here is sharp and it stands out nicely, giving the car a very authentic look. Now on the ends you have finely detailed ladders, well executed brake housing, and delicate end cage details that really elevate the realism. Although the underside here appears very simple, the hopper bays are very clearly defined with visible discharge gates, piping, and structural components, and this is really the highlight of this car. These are also metal frame trucks, makes for great running, and separate swinging couplers for the trucks. In operation, it performs exactly how you'd expect from Atlas: smooth rolling, reliable tracking, and no issues through curves or switches. Accuracy-wise, this is a very strong representation of the prototype, especially in terms of proportions and overall design. This is a fantastic late 20th century freight car. It combines excellent detail with great performance and looks right at home in a modern transition era consist.
And finally, a Norfolk and Western 6-bay cylindrical hopper. This one just looks right. It's one of those cars where you don't really need to explain it, it just fits. Now, this is one of my only cylindrical hoppers that has 6 bays, so it definitely looks a little different to give it a little bit more of a variety when putting it on the train. Let's open it up. Here it is. Now let's see that close up.
Now here is the Atlas O Premier 6-bay cylindrical hopper, item number 30014445-2. Now right away, this is one of those cars that really stands out in a consist and has a very modern, high-capacity look, and it brings a lot of visual weight to the train. The prototype for these cars comes from modern railroading, where efficiency and capacity are everything. Cylindrical hoppers like this are designed to maximize internal volume while still allowing for smooth unloading. Now, you'll typically see these hauling grain, plastic pellets, and other dry bulk commodities from the late 20th century all the way into today. Now, this model is part of the Atlas Premier line, so you're getting a full 1:48 scale proportions along with higher level of detail and metal components. Now, right out of the box, it feels substantial and very scale focused. Now, looking at the sides, the cylindrical body is the star of the show. The smooth panels are broken up with a very fine seam, and the printing is extremely crisp. All of the reporting marks and data blocks are very sharp and pretty easy to read up close. Up top here you have nicely defined hatch detail and subtle rivet work that really adds to the realism without being overdone. On the ends, the detail continues with finely scaled ladders, well-proportioned brake housing, and a cleanly molded brake wheel. Nothing feels oversized here, it all leans towards a more realistic scale appearance. Now underneath is where this car really shines and gets its name. You've got the full hopper gate detail, structural framing, and visible piping. The trucks are die-cast with metal wheels, and the couplers are solid and reliable. Now in operation, this car rolls smooth. It tracks well through curves and switches and is just an all-around great performer on the layout. In terms of accuracy, this model is very close to the prototype, especially in its proportions and overall design. It's clearly aimed at scale modelers who want that extra level of realism. Overall, this is a fantastic modern freight car. It's detailed, smooth running, and a great way to add some contemporary variety to your train.
So yeah, all this happened because of a sale, a late Christmas/birthday gift, and a loving, supporting wife. We went from 4 freight cars to this, which is a pretty big shift for the layout, and honestly, it's probably long overdue. The freight side of things finally feels like it's starting to catch up a little bit. Now the real question is where all of this is actually going to go. And that's a problem I'm choosing not to think about right now. What I want to do is see how all of this looks out on the rails, because that's where this really is going to come together. So with that said, enjoy the newly added cars in action. Thank you again for watching Garrett's O-Gauge Trains.